Sunday, because as we've been going through Matthew's gospel, there are three things that have stood out to us. The first one is Jesus is the King. And Matthew declares this right at the start. In the very first verse, he lets us know that Jesus is the Son of David. He is King Jesus. We considered how a few weeks ago he rides into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey as King Jesus. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Another theme we've seen in Matthew is Jesus has authority. Authority in his teachings, authority to heal, authority to cleanse lepers, great authority over evil spirits, and so on. And a third thing we've seen is that Jesus was training his disciples for something. He called them away from fishing and tax collecting and so on, and he was training them. And when we get right to the end of Matthew's gospel, and this is the passage we looked at on Sunday, these three themes converge. He's the King, he has authority, and he's been training the disciples. Because what we read at the end of Matthew's gospel is Jesus saying to the disciples, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. So it's King Jesus speaking, and he declares that he has authority. And on the basis of that authority, he then says, go and make disciples. That's what he's been training them for these 3 years. He's invested so much quality and quantity time into the disciples, not just teaching, not saying, let's meet for an hour every Wednesday night. He lived with the disciples. They saw a lot of the things that Jesus did. They saw the miracles. They learned from him how to pray and so on. So Jesus really put a big investment into those men. And right at the end of Matthew's gospel, just before Jesus ascends to heaven, he gives them the Great Commission to make disciples of all nations. Now, that's not bordered nations as we know it. They are nations as in people groups. So we think of Papua New Guinea as one nation, but Papua New Guinea is 800 nations. 800 distinct people groups, more than 800 in fact. So there's still a lot of work to do to make disciples, and the baton really has landed in our hands. Okay, it was given to the disciples, but now it's up to us to take up the baton and for us to reach our generation with the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's still a lot of work to do. Joshua Project tells us that there are still several thousand unreached people groups in the world. Many of these are in the 1040 window that expands from Japan right across the Middle East to West Africa. That's where most of the 3 billion unreached people are living today. And so we need to pray, we need to labor, and we need to put up our hand for God to use us in whatever way he wants to in his mission field, even to go right into the 1040 window with the gospel. So Matthew's gospel finishes on that note, and with Jesus giving this wonderful promise, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age.